Welcome to Psychrae. Today we delve into one of the most talked about yet often misunderstood dimensions of human sexuality, foot fetishism. Why are some men attracted to feet? Why do toes, soles, arches, or even shoes trigger arousal in some individuals? Is this simply a quirky preference, or is it rooted in something deeper, something biological, psychological, cultural, or even symbolic? Sexual desire is never random. It's shaped by our brain, our upbringing, our society, our emotions, and even our early experiences. So when someone feels drawn toward feet in a sexual way, there's likely more happening beneath the surface than just a surface level fascination. In this episode, we'll take a comprehensive, science-based journey to explore this topic. We'll examine how modern psychology defines fetishes, what psychoanalysts like Freud said about them, what brain science reveals, and how culture, evolution, and childhood experiences shape our desires, including those that focus on feet. By the end of this episode, you'll not only understand why foot fetishism is one of the most common fetishes in the world, but also what it tells us about how the mind transforms something ordinary into something erotically charged. In psychological terms, a fetish is defined as a consistent pattern of sexual arousal that is focused on a non-genital body part or inanimate object. This isn't just occasional curiosity, it's something that's deeply woven into a person's sexual template. More specifically, foot fetishism falls under a category called partialism, where one's attraction is directed at a specific part of the body rather than the person as a whole. Feet, hands, hair, legs, and even armpits can become focal points in partialism.
But what makes something a fetish and not just a preference? The difference lies in intensity and consistency. A preference might be, I like when my partner wears heels. A fetish might be, I cannot reach sexual satisfaction without some kind of foot involvement. Historically, psychology saw fetishes as perversions or deviations from normal sexuality. Early diagnostic manuals even considered them mental disorders, but in modern clinical psychology, the view is much more nuanced. Today, as long as a fetish doesn't cause distress, harm, or non-consensual behavior, it's considered a normal variant of human sexuality. So in understanding fetishes, including foot fetishism, we shift from judgment to curiosity, from pathologizing to exploring. What shaped it? When did it begin? How does it function in a person's life? These are the questions we ask in today's psychological landscape. Of all the body parts that could become objects of desire, why feet? Surveys, case studies, and research papers have consistently shown that feet are the most commonly fetishized body part, particularly among men. In one large study, researchers analyzed over 5,000 fetish-related online discussions and found that nearly half of all body part-focused fetishes involved feet. Why? There's no single answer, but many theories. From a neurobiological perspective, it could be about the brain. From a psychoanalytic angle, it might stem from early unconscious associations. From a cultural point of view, it could be linked to symbolism, taboos, and media representation. From an evolutionary lens, it might reflect subconscious markers of youth, vulnerability, or health.
Feet are also paradoxical in how society treats them. They're both private and public, clean and dirty, ignored and highly aestheticized through pedicures, shoes, and fashion. This mix of opposites makes them psychologically rich, perfect objects onto which desire, dominance, submission, or fascination can be projected. In other words, feet are psychologically fertile ground. Let's talk about the grandfather of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud. Freud had a particular interest in fetishism. In his 1927 paper titled Fetishism, he proposed that many fetishes form as psychic defense mechanisms, especially in response to traumatic childhood discoveries, such as the realization that not everyone has a penis, known in Freudian terms as castration anxiety. According to Freud, the foot could become a symbolic substitute for the penis, especially in boys who developed sexual curiosity during early stages of psychosexual development. If a child experienced anxiety or confusion during this stage, they might fixate on a part of the body that their mind linked to those sexual discoveries. Freud also pointed out
that the foot has long been associated with humility, submission, and the taboo, all of which heighten its power as a sexual symbol. While many of Freud's ideas are now seen as speculative or outdated, he did lay the foundation for exploring the unconscious roots of desire. His work shifted the conversation from "this is deviant" to "this is meaningful," sparking generations of inquiry into how our earliest experiences shape what turns us on. In the early 2000s, renowned neuroscientist Vilayanur Ramachandran made a fascinating observation about the structure of the somatosensory cortex, the area in the brain responsible for processing sensations from different parts of the body.
What he noticed was this. The region that processes sensory input from the feet is directly adjacent to the region that processes sensations from the genitals. Could this physical closeness in the brain lead to cross-activation in some individuals? Ramachandran hypothesized that in certain people, neural pathways might bleed into each other, so that when the foot is touched, the brain also lights up the genital region. This idea of neurological cross-wiring is one of the strongest scientific explanations for why certain body parts become erotically charged even when they don't seem sexual by themselves. It's important to note that this theory doesn't mean everyone with a foot fetish has a brain difference, but it does support the idea that fetishes may arise from biological structures, not just psychological or social influences. It also removes judgment. If a foot fetish is partially a product of how your brain is wired, then it's not a choice, it's a variation. Cultural context plays a powerful role in shaping what we consider erotic, shameful, or sacred. Feet, perhaps more than any other body part, carry wildly different meanings depending on the culture. In some Eastern cultures, showing the sole of the foot is considered a grave insult. In others, touching someone's feet is a gesture of profound respect, humility, or submission, such as in India, where younger people bow to touch elders' feet. This duality of reverence and repulsion gives the foot a special psychological status. Western cultures, on the other hand, have often hidden the foot. In Victorian England, even showing an ankle was considered scandalous. In Islamic cultures, exposing feet in a mosque is forbidden. But ironically, that which is hidden often becomes eroticized. It gains a kind of mysterious power. Freud called this the return of the repressed. What society hides, the unconscious often desires. Then we have media and fashion. The rise of high heels, foot jewelry, anklets, nail polish, and sandals in pop culture has helped elevate the foot from something functional to something aesthetic, even glamorous. Close-up shots of feet in movies, music videos, advertisements, and even social media have normalized the visual focus on feet. The fashion industry, especially with the fetishization of heels and arches, continues to blur the line between style and sexuality. The sound of heels on the floor, the tension in the arch of a stiletto, or the vulnerability of bare soles. These are not just visual cues, but psychosexual triggers. So culture doesn't just reflect our desires, it helps create them. A striking pattern across studies is that foot fetishism is significantly more common in men than in women. But why? Let's explore several overlapping explanations. 1. Visual orientation of male sexuality. Men, on average, have a more visual and object-focused sexual arousal system. This is supported by neurological studies using fMRI scans, which show that male brains react more strongly and more rapidly to specific visual stimuli, especially body parts. So a man who has repeatedly seen feet in sexual contexts, whether in real life or in media, may more easily form a conditioned response to that stimulus. 2. Imprinting during adolescence.
Psychologists have long known that early sexual experiences leave a lasting imprint. If a teenage boy experiences arousal while seeing feet, in porn, in daily life, in dreams, the brain may pair that visual with pleasure, making feet a long-term part of his sexual template. In other words, the brain is saying, this worked once, let's keep doing it. 3. Higher tendency toward paraphilias in males. Men are statistically more likely to develop paraphilic interests, which include not only fetishes, but other atypical desires like voyeurism or BDSM. This is not a defect. It's a reflection of the higher sexual novelty-seeking behavior seen in males. 4. Societal permission for male fetish exploration. Men are more often given a cultural pass to explore kinks, while women's desires are often expected to be romantic or emotional. Men are stereotyped as being sexually experimental, which may encourage the open development or expression of fetishes. So the higher frequency of foot fetishism in men is likely a complex blend of biology, psychology, and society. Let's now address a question many people ask. Is a foot fetish a mental disorder? The answer is no, unless it causes significant distress or harm. According to the DSM-5, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, a fetish becomes a disorder only when it causes clinically significant distress or impairment in functioning. It involves non-consensual acts or harms others. So if someone enjoys feet as part of their sexuality, and it's consensual, mutually enjoyable, and not causing distress, then it's not pathological. This is an important shift in how psychology views sexuality. There's also the concept of supernormal stimuli. In nature, animals often respond more strongly to exaggerated versions of natural signals. For example, birds may prefer oversized eggs. In human terms, high heels or anklets might exaggerate the curvature or daintiness of feet, amplifying their erotic value through artificial enhancement. However, evolutionary psychology doesn't claim that foot fetishes evolved directly as adaptive traits. Rather, they may emerge from the brain's flexibility and capacity to form novel associations. Our sexual preferences, including fetishes, may be shaped by how our minds respond to cues already loaded with symbolic or biological meaning. In this sense, foot fetishism isn't strange or deviant. It may be a creative extension of how desire adapts, associates, and evolves across culture and biology. Why is foot fetishism significantly more prevalent among men? One compelling theory involves the visual nature of male sexuality. Multiple studies, including work from neuroscientist Simon LeVay and sexologist John Bancroft, suggest that men are more visually aroused and more likely to develop object-specific fixations. This means a single part of the body, like the feet, can become eroticized more easily, especially during adolescence when sexual imprinting occurs. Women, by contrast, tend to exhibit more context-based arousal patterns. Female desire is often influenced by emotional connection, narrative, or relational dynamics, rather than isolated physical traits. This doesn't mean women can't have fetishes. They can and do, but they're statistically less likely to develop fixations on singular body parts. Hormonal differences may also play a role. Testosterone, which drives libido, is present in much higher concentrations in males, potentially reinforcing early sexual conditioning. If a teenage boy experiences arousal in the presence of exposed feet, whether from a classmate, media scene, or even a dream, that connection may solidify into a fetish through repetition. Additionally, cultural messaging often portrays women's feet as objects of care, display, and beauty. Think pedicures, sandals, and high heels. This visibility, combined with the male brain's tendency to sexualize what is seen, creates a fertile ground for fixation. Feet are not just physical objects, they are symbols. In many cultures and psychological frameworks,
The foot is associated with status, dominance, submission, and humility. Think about it. The feet are the lowest part of the body. They touch the ground. They carry our weight. And in many traditions, they're considered dirty or private. Touching or kissing someone's feet is often seen as an act of devotion, subjugation, or reverence. This dynamic makes the foot an ideal object in power-based fetishes. Some individuals are aroused by the act of worshiping a partner's feet, submitting to them, or being stepped on. For others, in the end, foot fetishism isn't just about feet. It's about how the human mind turns the ordinary into the erotic, and how desire in all its forms reveals who we are beneath the surface.